Hi, I'm Adam Ben-Youssef, the Global Vice President of Revenue Growth Management and Commercial Planning Solutions with O9, and delighted to be joined today by Tuomas Penttinen from Arla Foods. Tuomas, thank you for joining us. Why don't you just share a little bit of an introduction about yourself and what you do?
Absolutely. So my name is Tuomas Penttinen, head up RGM, or Net Revenue Management as we call it at Arla. Previously, my background is heavily into FMCG with Danone and Unilever and so on. So heavily into RGM and happy to run the Center of Excellence team now at Arla Foods with exciting digital transformation on the way.
As I say, great to have you here. And I think today really hoping to talk a little bit about the commercial and revenue management transformation that you're in the midst of undertaking at Arla. And, almost to get it started, because this is one of the more ambitious transformation programs we see in the CPG industry at the moment, could you perhaps shed some light on the internal, the external factors that led Arla Foods to embark on what is a really substantial commercial and revenue management transformation?
Of course, I think a lot of the reasons for our transformation are actually external. So one of the big things is that the landscape in the industry and in the category is moving quite quickly. Our competitors are investing in tech. I mean, we're facing quite a lot of pressure from the retailers and understanding on how we can actually help them grow the categories. One of the key enablers is also that the data is there and it's available actually in many ways, and we actually need to take advantage of that data that we buy across the markets that we operate in. From an internal perspective, I think that it's something where we actually want our commercial colleagues to kind of codify the ways of working and really get into a systematic approach where revenue management is something that we live and breathe as a company.
Yeah. And would you say, I think these, you alluded to some of these dynamics in the industry, obviously Arla Foods, big in the dairy industry, but would you say these are, sort of some of these factors, these themes common across wider consumer packaged goods type products and branded goods?
I think every consumer goods company struggles probably a lot with the same things, especially the mature categories where fighting for growth can be challenging at the times. So I think that's fully applicable to across all the industry that we are in consumer goods.
Yeah, I fully agree. Now, give us a sense, particularly I'm sure many of our listeners in the AIM10X digital world may be less familiar with detail of Arla Foods. So give us a bit of a sense of Arla, its scale, and for this transformation, also the scope and the scale of what you're doing. Who's impacted? Where are you implementing these changes to your commercial capabilities?
Absolutely. So we're a Europe-based cooperative with farmer owners, and we of course produce milk and utilize that milk in the best way we can. We turn over well over 10 billion euros a year, so a quite massive operation that we run. So I think that's a bit about Arla Foods. When it comes to our kind of how many colleagues we're impacting, actually the transformation that we have is absolutely one of the biggest things that we've done across all of the technology landscape. So it's affecting roughly 1,200 colleagues and really everyone from sales to marketing to finance and everyone who works in a commercial decision-making role. It's very crucial that we get all of them onboarded onto the platform.
So it's a huge scope of transformation. And this is across your whole European business for Arla?
Absolutely. So our 6 European markets are where we have our core farmer owners, and that's where we run majority of our business. So that's where we have also strong brands to play with.
That makes sense. Now, let's get into then some sense almost of the functional scope of what you're doing then, because we talk commercial transformation, it can mean different things to different people. And I think actually the scope of what you are doing at Arla, it really is very much pioneering within the CPG industry. So give us some sense of that.
Yeah, so we started out RGM a few years back now, and of course we base ourselves with the 5 levers of revenue management like everyone else does, and that actually gave us a quite good starting point into what we want in a tool for our future for our commercial teams to use. So we're very much talking about how we want to do pricing in the future, how we want to see our assortment play, how we want to do promotions, how we want to understand our trade terms, profit pools, all that. And on the top of that, we've actually invested also in joint business planning capabilities that will actually allow our commercial teams then to execute together with our customers.
And I think this point is key, right? Because this gets to the heart of what really is quite special about the transformation you're doing at Arla right now. I think many of your peer companies, I'm sure, will have invested in building revenue management capabilities. Of course, they'll have their sales teams, their account management teams out having to negotiate with customers week in, week out, those joint business plans. And I think the real crux of a change you're doing here is actually really thinking about, well, how do you connect these?
Yeah, I think that the power comes with actually that. So you can't have pricing without promotions. They go hand in hand in the commercial decision making. Same with assortment. If you do changes here, it affects the other area. And of course, then the big piece is how do you connect it with your customers and make sure that it's actually a win-win for everyone in that.
I mean, I couldn't agree more. This is something we really see as O9 as the frontier and really the next generation of capability that every CPG is going to have to be looking to build, that connected revenue management commercial planning capability. Now, I know certainly myself, I talk with many folks in your position, your role across companies, and often one of the first questions people will have is, well, this seems like a really big transformation, so many people in the business to engage to get started, and almost the obstacles can seem as big as the opportunity when people are starting out. So give a sense of what some of the obstacles you were facing actually early on in Arla as you were thinking about getting into this program. What were some of those obstacles that you had to overcome that maybe will resonate with folks in a similar situation elsewhere?
Yeah, I'm sure that investing in tech is always a complicated journey to get those budgets and plans approved, because they are quite often the difficult and complex projects that run over multiple years. So that's of course always the first hurdle to get over with. Secondly, I think that a lot of this is just making sure that we understand the vision and start communicating that very early on, and like, why are we doing this and why actually this makes sense and how does that make future proof for our commercial organization. So really being rock solid on that vision and making sure that you onboard all your stakeholders well in advance, and then keep them along in the change management journey once you start going further and further into the program.
No, absolutely. And I think, would it be fair to say, in your case at Arla, this is something where you did have very strong sponsorship from your most senior leadership for really pursuing this opportunity?
Exactly. So I think that's been the most crucial part of the program when we started to get the support from our senior executives. So it's been something where the group has believed in the program from the beginning. It's a major part of our digitalization strategy as a business. So it's something where we can actually proudly stand as a program that we're supported by the most senior leadership in the company.
Which is, it makes such a difference. And turning a bit, because I think we'll come back to the broader scope of this, the change parts, the human part of the transformation, but almost turning for a minute to the tools, the technology. I'm sure in your career, various revenue management leadership roles across companies, you've come across different types of revenue management tool. Give us a sense of what sort of underpinned your real drive. We've talked about the value coming from connecting it together, but have you had this experience working with separate tools in the past, and what have been some of the issues you've encountered there?
I think it's always been complicated in the RGM area that, like you said, the tools are just all over the place in many places, and you might have a TPM system here, you might have some dashboards there, and like here is my Excels and joint business plans here. So I think that already simplifying that user experience and making sure that your colleagues actually have one place, one single source of truth where they can access all their commercial data, understand all their internal metrics, and actually plan all their future activities as well. So that's actually something where we see the big value coming in, that we have one stop shop, so to say, for all our commercial decision making, with the smart layer on top that actually can recommend and generate some insights and recommendations for us. No,
I think that's a really powerful part of what you're doing, and certainly experienced myself the challenges that can come with giving people almost too many separate tools that don't talk to each other, that you often end up with none of them getting used.
I think we all have experience in that.
Yeah. So it's, I think, very much central to our vision and our capability that we've been building at O9. Now, if you were to sort of really, we've touched on this a bit already, the scale of this transformation, but if you were to almost give, maybe your pitch to your CEO when you're stood in the elevator with him, the classic one, of your future vision for what commercial excellence really means for Arla Foods.
For us, the true number one as a partner for our customers has been really that driving force in terms of we want to be the best in class in our commercial capabilities. We want to help our customers to drive category growth and grow together with them in those areas. So it's very much on that vision that where we see a digitalized future, one-stop shop, help our customers have a real true partner in commercial excellence and make sure that we can grow those categories together. So that's very much at the core of this, as well as making sure that we have everyone on board in this journey, because that's something where we know that change management is often the area where you can fall a bit short on these programs.
No, and maybe it's worth sort of touching on that a bit more, because I think something I've seen firsthand working with you and the Arla team, very impressive how you've actually brought in not just revenue management teams, but also colleagues from commercial finance and particularly from key account management teams directly into the program. What have been, and I see they are very engaged with the work you're doing, and I'm sure many folks who've worked in commercial functions before will know that the sales team's often super busy, 100 other priorities, and it's definitely not the big sort of multinational change program that's high up their list. How have you managed to get those teams so engaged with this program?
I think our common approach here with O9 is really that we built the tool for the end users, and to do that, you need their input right from the beginning, right? So bringing our colleagues into the workshops, designing the platform, designing the functionalities that you want. Of course, we have a strong reference model that to benchmark to, but again, those little nuances, what they struggle with in their day-to-day life, bringing them along in the journey and making sure that everyone is heard across the markets, across the functions, has been something that we've raised a lot of good feedback around. Almost getting this message of breaking the silos once again, which again is something that probably will drive our transformation even more into a successful area.
I think there's such an important insight there really for anyone looking to set up these programs. I think we still see so many large enterprises where you do have this sort of siloed, tribalized knowledge and information really, and not just hard data, but also that knowledge of how to do your job or how to connect your job. It's sort of existing independently, and actually we're seeing the power of not just connecting the data, the enterprise knowledge, but that enterprise knowledge being data and actually the interactions that people have to get, as you say, great outcome for your customers. And I think the kind of feedback you're hearing, and judging by some of the engagement we see from your sales teams, your key account teams, who ultimately are facing into their customers, they're seeing a kind of competitive advantage then to having things like revenue management capabilities, simulation capabilities at their fingertips when they're in front of a customer. What are they feeding back to you?
Yeah, exactly that. So having the ability to live simulate scenarios when you might be, whether that's on the phone, live with the customer, you're trying to tweak your plans together. It's something that's super powerful, that you have always your data available, you have the latest chance to generate the recommendations with some really cool algorithms and generate value for both you and the customer in this area. So it's something that where the sales teams have really given feedback to us that once this is something that we can actually run all the time, that they see the value that we can generate with it.
Such an important lesson there actually for anyone thinking about these transformations. Where are you going to get that value from? In the case of a commercial transformation, it is coming with your customers at the end of the day and your consumers that you're looking to reach. And if your sales teams are the ones who really understand those customers, how do you really make sure you're building capabilities that work for them?
Exactly. So you need to build what the people want in that sense. So not always the greatest idea to give tools as such.
I see much the same, right? It's building capabilities that actually help them to be more effective in their jobs. And yes, there's a huge amount of technical complexity behind the scenes to make that possible. But as let's say a sort of design goal that you work back from, I think that's been a really powerful one.
For sure.
Now, tell me, you're sort of coming up on a year into this transformation at Arla. Big takeaways, big learnings in terms of what's worked so far, and then we'll come to the challenges in a minute.
What's worked, I think, blueprinting. That's, again, a really solid way of making sure that you actually have a solid, robust process where you generate the tool and make sure that you understand the requirements, you design the new future together and build actually some of the concrete user stories and so on. So that's been a very strong process where our colleagues have leaned in a lot, and we do see the value as a program team that it's been one of the more successful things there. The other thing that we've had really good all along is our change management journey. We've started very early on. We've had communication going all the way. We've actually engaged with a lot of stakeholders, probably more than anyone can imagine, but that's always the case in these that it's better to almost like overdo change management a bit rather than under-deliver on that. So those two, I think, are probably some of the strongest successes that we've had so far, and something that we can we can have confidence that the program will be a success as well going forward.
Brilliant. No, I think great there. And again, I can speak from my own experience, being got your side of the table, implementing these transformations myself, and certainly have seen firsthand the value of investing in that change piece and really getting that right, and understanding what is that shift you're looking to drive in the business. Think about the end user, what you're trying to do for them, and sort of put yourself at their service almost into making it a success. And I think that really is key when you're dealing with, at the end of the day, commercial spends, marketing spends, similarly, very large decentralized decision making in companies. So you've got to bring teams with you and make things that work for them. Otherwise, they can easily sort of not use them.
Absolutely. Success comes together even in this. So
absolutely. So then let's pivot to the obvious follow-up question: challenges. What's been sort of the most challenging aspects for you in the transformation like this that involves so many individuals, 1,200 people, but even your core blueprinting team is probably, across the various markets you work with simultaneously. You're in probably good sort of mid-double-digit type territory, aren't you?
Yeah, I think we're looking at roughly 50 super users across in the blueprinting phase. Like I said, 1,200 colleagues finally being the impacted population on this. So I think that some of the key challenges here is that the PMO, so the project management office here, is actually so crucial to get right. So some of the simple things like scheduling, locations, a lot of the practicalities, they can actually hinder you down quite a lot in these areas, and managing that is a full-time job and really a really heavy success factor into getting things right. So I think that's somewhere where we've learned a lot on the journey and we're much better at it now. But when we started, you probably know yourself as well that it wasn't the easiest journey to kick off in a very quick pace as well. So probably one of the key learnings is not to underestimate the project management office on this.
Yeah, I think very sound advice, and certainly the logistics very quickly gets very complex with these multinational transformations like this. So let's talk then a bit about actually benefits you look to see from the programs. We've talked a lot about the, let's say, the kind of capability shifts you're looking for in terms of connecting your revenue management levers, pricing, promotions, assortment planning, connecting that with your joint business planning for your commercial teams, enabling really your sales teams on the front lines to be more effective, more agile in planning, simulating scenarios. In terms of how you then think, I'm sure you're in discussions with your finance team and your senior leadership about the benefits, the hard financial benefits, let's say, that you look to see from this program. Where do you see those coming from?
Of course, that there's a business case like in every program here, and we're looking to improve, of course, our profitability and really do that profitable growth journey together with our customers. So I think that's where we see the biggest benefit coming in. So again, we can optimize on different areas. You can always find opportunities in pricing. You can always find opportunities in assortment. You can promotional efficiency is something that we've been talking about for decades probably now, and there's always something to be found in these, and the smarter, the faster we do this and get to decisions quicker, that just generates value. But I think all in all, the big part of our program, outside of the financial benefits, is of course that capability built for our sales teams and making sure that we are future-proof in the business.
No, I think, Tuomas, that makes a lot of sense, what you've just shared. You know, I think, Arla, you had a really strong track record doing activity, as you say, on pricing, on pack price architecture individually before. And you're bringing these capabilities together now, so almost crystallizing. What's the from to for you? Because you've relied in the past, let's say, on a small team of super sort of net revenue management experts to be almost dropping into markets and driving things. What does the future look like really tangibly then? Because are you going to be tripling the size of these NRM teams, or?
No, of course that's never the point. Like you do need people to run the tools. That's a given. It's not like this automation journey is a magic button and everything goes with the wish of a wand. But on that sense, I think that we're looking at that people are much more able to be independent. Information sharing flows between departments much better. Really getting into that connected sphere where our commercial teams actually understand what each other is doing and why they're doing. I think the more key is always this, that understanding why we're doing some of the things that we do, because not everything makes necessarily sense from a revenue management point of view, but we still want to make sure that we understand the reasons behind. So I think that that's very important. And of course the revenue management teams, they will continue to exist. They're still there to support the end users, no matter who they are. I think people will work in different tools, do the right things. I mean, we do a lot of things well. Is there always room to improve? Yes. So I think that's the key message, that we want to make sure that everyone understands that it is more something that we can do better together and faster.
Brilliant. Well, final question from me then. I've been asking you lots today, but if you were speaking to one of your counterparts, one of your peers in another company, so a sort of head of net revenue management, a head of commercial excellence type capability, commercial director, chief commercial officer, and they're looking at their commercial organization and saying, I feel we've got this challenge of we're not best leveraging the data we have available. We're not really, I've got great in-house data science capability, but I don't think it's really there at the front line of my commercial decisions where it could be. But do I go in for really actually getting this onto a common platform? What advice would you give to one of your counterparts, sort of having those types of questions? And I say this because often it's the conversation I find myself having very regularly.
I think the advice is that go for it. I mean, we all know that data is key, and digitalization will happen whether you like it or not. So now it's the right time to get in ahead of the game and really making sure that you are future-proof with your capabilities. You utilize that data in the best possible way. You start actually, even if you have in-house data science teams, making sure that they have actually the best platforms to also generate those algorithms that will generate the value. So I think that's just the general advice, is you should start moving already, and that's the name of the game is speed now. So I think that the companies that will go first will get the biggest value out of it.
Brilliant. Well, Tuomas, thank you very much for your time, for your words of wisdom. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam.